Hello, hi, Heidi ho, hola, ni hao, and welcome to Cast That Moving Picture, a podcast where two cinematic fanboys recast a failed cinematic project from the past, and then we debate and defend our choices. As if that wasn't enough, we go one step further and dream up an original cinematic project that we want to see made. Then we cast that mother effer as well. It's fun in the most literal way. We also play games and stuff, often, as has been stated, without our pants on, because why not? My name is Joad McDougal, and joining me, as always, is the Millie to my Vanilli, Tom Van Horton. Say hi to the listeners, Tommy boy.
Hi to the listeners, Tommy boy.
Well, Tom, we've made it to episode 3.
We have, and it's been a hell of a journey, my man. We're doing well. We're doing well for our third episode, I think.
I think it's going aight. I know you've listened to the second episode, and I have as well. Before we get going with what to expect on this episode, let's really quickly take a peek to the one we recorded last time. What are your takeaways from that particular podcast?
We should just call this segment Tom's Corrections. Because here's the thing. When I get in a groove and I'm telling a story, I tell the story. And I know the details, but sometimes the details get a little messy. So I have some corrections.
Okay.
Mostly around the screw job. When the big one I want to say was, there is debate. I mentioned that when they were renegotiating contracts, that Bret Hart was the nice guy and said, hey, I'll come back. There is debatable stories there. I don't know if that's the actual truth. I did get slammed on this a little bit from someone. So the other side of that story, real quick, I promised this person I would correct this, is that when they came back to when they were renegotiating contracts and Bret Hart got his 20-year deal, during that time frame he was already in contracts with WCW, and he passed. He was saying he was going back and forth to Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff and saying, hey, I'll kind of work in the deal there, and he sided with Vince McMahon. Then the company started to go under, and according to this person, Vince McMahon and WWE side of the story is they said, hey, we will release you because we can't afford to pay you, and we will help you get your contract back. We will actually work with Eric Bischoff to get you a job at WCW because you deserve to get paid more. So there is some debate there.
Well, I just one thing that strikes me as a little bit curious is, did Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff have that kind of a relationship that could be facilitated? That I don't know. My understanding was there was a lot of hostility there. But I'm not coming from a place of pure knowledge here. That's just what my takeaway was during that particular era.
You bring up a really great point, and I think that a lot of it comes into some revisionist history because now they're on good terms. So, it's kind of like when you're on bad terms, you get stories, and then like when you get on good terms, stories change.
Sure.
So, yeah, this is one of those things where I don't think they had that kind of relationship back then. I think there was a lot of hostility between Ted Turner and WWE. I mean, up until that point, WCW was dominating, and Vince really did think he was going to have to sell the WWF. So I don't know, but that's another side of the story I promised to bring up. I over-exaggerated with Undertaker. He banged on the door. He did not break down Vince McMahon's door. And the final one was the incident where in the back locker room, Bret Hart, during that particular time, it was a separate time that Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels got in a fight, and he pulled out his hair. It was not during the screw job. It was actually leading up to the screw job that they got in a real fight, and Bret Hart walked away with a part of his hair. So those are my corrections.
Well, here's what I'd have to say is, in our film version, Undertaker breaks down the fucking door. Because that'd be way more.
Was Clint Howard shitting his pants?
Yes. Oh, poor Clint Howard.
Poor Clint Howard.
You were so rough on him.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't know if he ever listens to this, but I do want to say
I'd say probably not. But
probably
go
not.
on.
But I made the point on our first episode, and I didn't feel like I needed to make the point in our last episode, but maybe I'll make the point here. I understand that, and one thing that I think you'll agree with me, Joad, is that we're not also casting writers here, and a lot of these things fall on the writers, right? Like a lot of these problems fall on the writers. But if we did a podcast about writers, no one's gonna know who the fuck we're talking about.
Right. Which is unfortunate because there are no films without a script.
Oh, we learned that during the strike.
Right.
Where I think we'll get a bulk of our fucking movies from going forward. But I love Clint Howard, and I know that came across really backhanded or really mean, but ultimately it comes from a place of love. Because as I said, and I think this got lost on a couple people, I will watch any movie with Clint Howard.
Sure. He
is up there with me as Bill Paxton. Like you will watch any Bill Paxton movie.
Oh, God rest his soul.
God rest his soul. I will watch any Clint Howard movie because I truly do appreciate Clint Howard as an actor. Yes, I came across harsh. Yes, I meant what I said. But at the same time, it wasn't out of spite or hate. It's like, dude, you're perfect. I need you for this role.
Well, and like I said to you, I think after the fact, unless we start putting him in movies, his brother's only making a movie once every 5 years or so. So, the dude could use he could use some help on that front.
He could.
My turn. I didn't. Yes. I don't know. I don't. I guess listen to it. As often as you do, like re-listen to the podcast. So if I made any errors, I guess I'm not aware of them. That said, I think the whole second episode, I was a little bit zombie face. We have a 5-week-old with colic right now that we're dealing with in the McDougal house, and let's just say sleep is coming at a premium. And so I might have been a little grog fest last time, but I'm feeling better this time. I think I powered through it okay, but I'm feeling a lot better not being basically a member of The Walking Dead right now.
Yay! Yeah. Joad's back. Back.
He's engaged this time. So I want to also really quickly, before we kind of get into what we're going to do this episode, I want to give a shout out to Dylan McFarling. He is the musician whose tracks we've been using as bumpers for our segments here on the podcast. And he didn't require any sort of credit or anything like that, but still, it's a really cool thing he's doing for us because
it is.
Anybody that's started a podcast knows copyrights handcuff you big time. And, you want to, this song would be great here. This soundbite would be great there. And you just don't have that privilege because of copyright laws. You got to be super careful because if you start making money, which we're not doing, but if you start making money, you're in some deep doo-doo there. So Dylan is kind enough to allow us to use all his music, and he's, I'm a big fan of his on the music he's done. So just want to make everybody aware that the guy that is providing that music is a super cool dude.
I also want to give a shout out to Joe Fremming, who picked us up on his website, the jodown.blog. Yes. We're on a website now.
Awesome.
Awesome, right? And it totally fits this. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, you should go to the jodown.blog. And they do, him and Joe, another Joe, that's why it's called the Jodown. Mm-hmm. They go back and forth on movies, and they'll review them, and they do it in a written format where we do ours, and we kind of recast and kind of, give backhanded compliments to people like Clint Howard. Mm-hmm. And I think it was the perfect setup. And he also, this, started a Twin Peaks podcast too. So if there's any, this is a perfect episode because I think we're pretty much saturating this with Dune. Mm. If you're a David Lynch fan, you can check that one out too.
Yes, absolutely. That was the jodown.blog. And we encourage everybody to check that out. And again, you'll find us there too, as well as other things to occupy your time. And I say enough dilly-dallying. Let us get to what we're doing in this particular episode, Tom. What are we doing? What are we recasting? I think you kind of already gave that away, but what is it exactly?
We're recasting one of my favorite movies of all time, the atrocious Dune.
Oh my God.
1984, which was so bad that for a long time, certain versions of it, there's been like 3 or 4 versions of it. We'll get into that. David Lynch refused to have his name on it and used the pseudonym Alan Smithy, which those in the film know that that's a director name that gets screen credit or Screen Guild credit. But you don't have to put your name on it because you don't want to be associated with the project.
Kind of a ghost director. Well, not even really a ghost director, just like the Robert Bachman to Stephen King, kind of thing. Yeah, but it's like universally used. It's not unique to just David Lynch. It's like anybody that it's like, I don't want my name on this piece of shit. Like Alan Smithy. Alan Smithy
has credits to quite a few movies. Maybe we'll get into that another time, but
we can have a special Alan Smithy, in memoriam podcast episode at some point. But yes, Dune is what we are going to recast and re-envision. And I will say I had not seen. I mean, all right, I'll say this. I think I've seen Dune in my youth. I don't remember any of it, so I basically came at it with fresh eyes when I watched it for the first time in decades on this 5 days ago. So I have a very fresh take on Dune, and there is no sentimental value or anything like that, so I will definitely be letting you know what I think about the movie we are recasting. And let me say, it's a good movie to recast. I'll just leave it with that for now.
Oh, this is gonna get so
dun dun dun.
I'm already crying.
Yeah.
But as a Dune as a Dune lover of this movie, of the books, of the sci-fi series, there is some sentimental value there. However, Joad, you know this. I've always said I'm not a fanboy enough of anything to not give it its critique when it's due.
Sure.
So I think I'll be very fair in my assessment as well. If not coming from a little bit more of a place of love, then I'm guessing yours is going to come around.
You guessed correctly. Very much so. You guessed correctly. Contemporary Dream Project. What we are doing for this is about as polar opposite as what we're doing with the project we're recasting. We are going to cast and assign a director/visionary for The Late Wars Part 2. And what that is what was it, about 10 years ago, I want to say, that the Late Wars broke out when Conan O'Brien was going to be the Tonight Show host, and Jay Leno decided he didn't want to give it up, and blah, blah, blah. And all those guys that name recognition there, we don't have to worry about. Everybody knows who these people are. We are going to cast those roles, as well as, for those that may have forgotten, kind of give a rundown of what exactly it entailed, because it was kind of a messy little episode, and I think it would make for a pretty fascinating film if done correctly.
I would completely agree with that. I'm excited for my picks on this one, buddy.
Yes. So I think we are going to go to our first ad break here, and then we are going to come back and we are going to get this rigor rolling. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds good to me. Let's get rigor rolling to the ads.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll be back in a couple. Take us away, Dylan.
Coming in.
Bob Billy Barker Bob is back. In case you missed it last time or have been aboding under a busted down, broken bus, wallowing in bad breaks and big bleeding blackouts, Barker Bob's boiled and barbecue beef and beets bonanza is the best pop-up beautiful bonanza worth biting and imbibing at. But of course, Barker Bob's boiled and barbecue beef and beets bonanza has beef and beets. You better believe it. But this time, he's bringing bacon, barley, brisket, barley brisket, bran, broccoli, broccolini, beans, butter, butter beans, and special guest Sean Bean. Admission is only $175 per body, and all-you-can-eat wristbands are only $299. That's Barker Bob's Boiled and Barbecue Beef and Beets Bonanza at Buck's Bargain Buicks at 3599 Bow Bridges Boulevard in Dover, Delaware. Remember, No matter how hard you try, you can't beat Barker Bob's beef.
Just a fool like the rest of them, sifting through ashes.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Cast That Movie. And we are going to get right to it, Tom, because we got a lot of ground to cover. I think we're going to start this next segment as we have been with some current casting news. Now, the funny thing is, if you want to call it funny, is that our casting news just so happens to overlap with the first project we're recasting. Why don't you explain why that is, Tom?
Because they're redoing Dune.
They are redoing Dune. Now, for any of you that think, well, they're already remaking it, so why are you guys even bothering? What we're doing is we're going back in time when we recast. We're literally recasting the 1984 Dune made by David Lynch. So the fact they're making a new one that's going to be contemporary and is going to look like a bajillion dollars has nothing to do with us going back in time and doing our thing. That being said, it is something worth discussing, and I want to let you start with your takeaways on some of the casting calls for this newest Dune project.
Well, because it's interesting because this came up last time, and as soon as you said the name Timothée Chalamet, it immediately clicked with me. And he's doing the Dylan movie, but he's also going to be Paul Atreides in the new Dune. Timothy's doing a lot of fucking work, which is just awesome.
He's hot right now.
He is.
He's what in the business? He's a get. He's a get right now.
He is a get. And we also talked about previously, you can't go wrong with a Skarsgård. We got Stellan Skarsgård coming in, who's going to be the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, which is going to be awesome.
Stellan Skarsgård. Yep, Papa Skarsgård.
Papa Skarsgård's going to be in this. Do you have you want to add a little bit of some of the casting? You want me to just keep rolling with this?
I really like, there's a couple that kind of caught me off guard. Now, I want to put that one out first, and that's Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. Now, I'm not familiar with the lore of Dune. The books, any of that. I'm only basing it off the 1984 movie, and Duncan Idaho was a very, very minor part in that movie. So I'm expecting that he originally wasn't written that way, and that will be a fleshed out role.
I will give something away here. I think if this goes well enough, they're going to do some of the other books. And Duncan Idaho, for what his fate is in the first book, there is some interesting twists and turns that happen later in the other books, and he becomes a very major character by the end of the Dune series.
Oh, really?
So I think Jason Momoa is putting his eggs in that basket.
Now, before we keep going on some of these casting choices, what I think I read was that this is not going to be a one-and-done Dune, right? I think I saw Denis Villeneuve, who's the director, did Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Arrival, just has got a pretty amazing resume here over the last decade or so. He's envisioning at least 2 Dune movies. Did you read the same?
Yes, they are splitting this into 2. It's going to be 2 parts, and I don't know exactly where they're going to end it. I have a feeling I know where they're going to end it, because I think there is a kind of an ending point of, I think, is a good spot where they can end and then go into the second part. But yes, this is a 2-parter, and then if that works out, I believe the idea is they're just going to keep going.
Okay, well, I really like Oscar Isaac in anything I see him in. He is Duke Leto Atreides.
Yes.
And I mean, you're going to put him in a movie. I can never critique that. So that is a very optimistic casting choice for me.
I think Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck is a great choice.
Which I had no idea. He was played by Patrick Stewart, right?
Patrick Stewart. Dune. Yeah.
He looks the same as he did in Next Generation, in X-Men. The guy he is a weird, like, I don't know. His face is always Patrick Stewart. There's no significant difference. A wrinkle here and there, but he looks the same. When he was probably 35 when he made that?
He looked like he was in his 60s, right? And he's just gotten better with age.
Yes.
So you got him. You got Bautista, who's going to be playing the Beast Raban.
Yes.
Which will be really interesting.
You got Zendaya playing Chani.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's a good casting choice. She's also just had that HBO show. I forget Bliss. I can't remember what it's called, but she just did. That was really, really. I thought it was pretty interesting. So, and then of course the Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
So she's definitely riding a wave right now. Now Rebecca Ferguson is Lady Jessica. I had to look her up. I guess was in the last couple Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with her either. I had to look her up as well. But looking at her, I think she'll be fine.
Sure.
She looks like she's. I mean, when you think about Jessica in the book and how they describe her, she was also in Doctor Sleep recently. Mm-hmm. I think she'll be great.
Okay. Do you have anybody else you wanted to discuss, or
I don't? I think we're good there. I'm really excited. I mean, it's a hell of a cast, and I really like the director. I do. I think it's in great hands.
Yeah, I am more optimistic going into seeing this Dune than I was when I sat down on my couch on Saturday night and had to spend $3.99 to watch David Lynch's Dune. But it is what it is. I suffer for the show. Speaking of David Lynch's Dune, shall we?
Yes.
Shall we start this?
Let's get in this. This is going to be long.
I'm going to turn it on to you, or turn it over to you. Turn it on to you.
Turn it on. I can turn you on, baby. I got no pants on.
Fuck yeah. Why don't you tell us what we need to know before we start talking about this?
Okay. I did a lot of research on this. So, Joad, are you familiar with Alejandro Jodorowsky?
I don't think so. Should I be?
Well, I don't know. He might not be in your wheelhouse, but he did. He was big in the 70s for doing El Topo and Holy Mountain.
I've heard you had Holy Mountain, right?
I had Holy Mountain. Yes.
Yeah. I think I might have seen that one. The first one you mentioned, no, I don't think I've seen.
Okay. So he was this artistic, crazy visionary of a director in his time. Mm-hmm. And he came, and so he brought in Dan O'Bannon for the special effects. He picked up Pink Floyd and the band Magma to do the music. He got
for which film are we talking?
For Dune. He was going to do Dune originally.
Okay, then. Okay.
Yes.
I'm following you now.
Yes. So in 1974, he started putting together his Dune project. It was his dream thing to do. Mm-hmm. So he picked up Dan O'Bannon for special effects. He got H.R. Geiger to do artwork for it. That name will ring a bell later if you don't know what that is. But again, Pink Floyd, Magma. Mm-hmm. He had Salvador Dali as the Emperor, Orson Welles as the Baron, Mick Jagger as Freud, David Carradine as Leto, and he casted as he was going to have his own son be Paul Atreides. It turned out, and they let this guy film because of what he had done with El Topo and everything. Like, this guy's just going to do what he's going to do. Turned into a 14-hour epic.
Wow.
And it never reached production. It just ballooned, and the funding and everything, and became this 14-hour deal. Well, thankfully, it didn't happen for good or bad, because some of the artwork and Dan O'Bannon and H.R. Geiger and Dan O'Bannon with special effects hit it off big time and went off to work with Ridley Scott on Alien. And that wouldn't have happened had it dried up. And there's if you're really interested, there's a documentary. Well, then in 1976, Italian producer for putting out really bad garbage, Dino De Laurentiis purchased the rights. Yes. And
didn't he do like Good, Bad, and the Ugly or something adjacent to that kind of stuff?
Something adjacent to that kind of stuff.
Spaghetti westerns.
And he had done, I don't know if it was necessary. I mean, he'd done a lot of stuff, but his star power was drying out. To give you an idea, he did Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and he did Silver Bullet, and he did Red Sonja, and he did Halloween 3 and Amityville. He started to really go off this really bad path. But he was known for like the 1976 King Kong, Buffalo Bill and the Indians, Crazy Joe, the original Death Wish. So, there was this point where he was known for being really good and then just jumped the shark terribly. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he got a hold of this, and originally he wanted Ridley Scott. And they're like, okay, this could be great. But then there were some issues there on the scripting, and Ridley Scott's like, fuck it, I'm going to go do Blade Runner. So in 81, he approached David Lynch.
Okay.
Now, interestingly enough, David Lynch was being approached with another high project at the time, little known movie called Return of the Jedi to direct.
What the really?
Really?
Why?
Really? Because they wanted him because of the Elephant Man, really, and because of some of the producers and things like that. And he'd received a lot of these offers to do these surreal sci-fi worlds. People just thought Lynch would connect with it. So he agreed to do Dune and write the screenplay, even though Lynch had not read the book, known the story, or ever really had an interest in science fiction. He wrote the script over 6 months and came across 5 drafts during that time. And it was signed up to be, originally, 3 films. They thought they were going to make, quote, Star Wars for grown-ups.
Mm-hmm.
It eventually came out to a 135-page 6 draft, shot entirely in Mexico, with a budget of over $40 million. It required 80 sets, 16 sound stages, and a crew of 1,700 people. When it was said and done, it was a 4.5-hour long movie. Obviously, the studio had problems with this. Post-production is what killed this. And Lynch's intended cut was never seen, has never been seen. There's been a lot of different versions of it. They went to the TV version. That's the one where and some other extended cuts, he will not have his name on it. It did not do well. On a budget of over $40 million, its opening weekend, it did $6 million. By the end of its run, it had only brought in $30 million. And it was considered one of the worst disappointments. Robert Ebert gave it a 1 out of 4 stars, calling it a complete fucking mess. Well,
Roger Ebert,
yeah, Roger Ebert. I'm paraphrasing.
So when did he Lynch? When did he put his name back on it? So
his name was on it on the original version, but they came out with this television version that became the extended cut.
Oh, okay.
And it was this mess, and he had no thing as far as say on how that was edited, because they wanted to put it on 2 parts. It was going to be this
like a mini series,
like a mini series type of thing. Yeah, that they, and he completely disavowed the version and said, "Put it on Alan Smithy. I have nothing to fucking do with that."
Okay.
And there have been some things, and Universal has approached him several times to do a director's cut, and he refuses to decline every offer. And if you bring up Dune in an interview, he will either walk out or go right to the next question and have you removed. He does not talk about this movie.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about this movie in detail. Okay, let me give you now my take. Having, like I said, just watched it for, as far as I know, the first time in my life. My take is it's everything I dislike about David Lynch. It is cold. It is distant. It is humorless. It is heartless. I don't know. I mean, all that being said, I could have liked it if it looked better, but it is just riddled with cheesy effects. And that's unfortunately, I think what I dislike most about David Lynch might have worked the best in this film had it been made well. But as soon as they start like getting in these force field box things or start riding the giant graboids,
Tremors reference.
Yes, they look like graboids. And I mean, to be fair, this came out like 6 years before Tremors, but when I saw them, I'm like, wow, that's like the biggest graboid ever. So I don't know. I didn't like it. I will definitely say that. I thought the casting was really bad. The pacing was awful, and I can see how it was once 4.5 hours, because the whole thing with Paul and her name here, Chani, like that happened in like the span of 2 minutes. All of a sudden they were like together, and it's like, well, there was a dream he had, a foreshadowing, and then all of a sudden now they're like together. I mean, everything about it could have been better, start to finish. But yeah, it was impersonal, just like David Lynch's work. The way I read it is it's cold and personal, distant, and there's no beating heart behind it. But it could have worked in the hands of the right director, and I have found the director that could have made that kind of a project work, where David Lynch failed miserably.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to go with a guy who's pulled off sci-fi very well, and sci-fi that has had similar themes and similar tone, and that is Stanley Kubrick. To me, was the obvious choice.
Ooh, you pulled a Kubrick card.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I can guarantee you one thing: it would not have been guys atop a graboid yelling "pew pew pew" and shooting stuff. What?
That's in the book, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but it's just the way it was executed was just so sophomore. It was laughable. I was laughing. I don't think that's what was intended.
No, that wasn't what's that.
Laughter.
I'm gonna say, I think this why I don't think this works for Lynch is I feel this is the opposite of his normal work. When I watch this movie, I don't see Lynch in this movie. I see studio interference. I don't think Lynch was given the ability to do his full direction. Lynch is amazing at framing scenes. It's just what he does. And his artistic eye and things of that nature. And while things can be cold, there is I was shocked to find out that he did do had his hand in the writing, because it doesn't feel like Lynchian writing to me. So for me, it's devoid of the things that I love about Lynch. It's Elephant Man and Mulholland Drive. This is not, in my mind. So those are actually the things I don't like about it. But my director is, I felt someone who could do it. And you picked this director at one point, and I think he could have done it because he did well in Brazil. Terry Gilliam.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to devote less time to banter about our picks and just kind of get through our picks. It's one little change we're making here. So we're just going to kind of keep steamrolling, and we will come back, believe you me, and talk about each of our picks and defend and debate them. Let's go then to Paul.
So for me, the person that Terry Gilliam will be taking is someone who, one of the things I think was lacking in the Dune movie was people that weren't white on a desert planet. And I thought this person could transition well from being from the water planet to this and get that tan. You're going to hate it. I hate him in real life. Scott fucking Baio.
Come on.
I hate him, but at the time in 1984, I think Scott Baio could have done it.
Chachi.
I'm going with motherfucking Chachi. Fight me on this.
I will. Well, we'll save it for now. Okay, so here's kind of my vision of what I think. I could never get inside Stanley Kubrick's head, right?
God, no.
But here's what I would have wanted to see him do. And again, this is coming with no knowledge of, the Dune mythos or any of that. Just what I think would have made a good story and more kind of made it an allegory. Because I see what you're saying, the people. And by the way, Zendaya, Javier Bardem are the sand people in the remake. So they are paying attention to, hey, you're not going to look like, the guy who, a country music singer.
Big Ed from Twin Peaks is not going to be Stilgar.
Right. Yes, that did catch me off guard too. I gotta admit that casting, but it's not. It was way before Twin Peaks, but still, I couldn't not.
It was the same people. Lynch works with the same groups.
Yes. So all this is my point of saying I envisioned the Atreides to be. I'm picking all British cast. Okay. For Atreides, for Harkonnen, that side I'm picking all American. And for the Sand People, I will get to that here when we get to the pick of Chani, who we are casting. So for the choice of Paul, I picked a guy who was a couple years from his big breakthrough, but he was working. He would have been a discovery pick for Kubrick, who which is definitely not outside of Stanley Kubrick's forte.
No.
Is discovering actors and giving them a chance, and making a giant career for them afterwards. I am going with the one and only Gary Oldman.
I cannot go wrong when you pick Gary Oldman for something. Okay.
It would have been as big. I mean, this is 2 years prior to Sid and Nancy, I believe. But the talent, I have to believe, was always there. So, so we shall now move on to Lady Jessica, and I will give my pick here first. I'm going with the dependable, as always, the forever beautiful Helen Mirren.
Ooh, I do like your pick. I went with gorgeous, knowing what the Bene Gesserit are in the book. There's some things there we could always get into, but I went more off looks for this one. And I went with someone that was very big in the 80s, and I think would have done this role very well. The one and only lovely Victoria Principal.
Oh, okay. Victoria Principal, huh? Okay. Let's go to Duke Leto Atreides. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You are. Duke Leto Atreides.
All right. Who do you got for Duke Leto Atreides?
Well, I had to pick someone that can be the father of one Scott Baio. And if I'm already digging in the well that I don't like.
Don't say Henry Winkler.
It's not, although he was on my short list. No, he wasn't. This guy.
Oh man, though that Winkler got me.
Okay. He's in the vein of Winkler, though, I think.
Okay.
But he's made some movements in movies and music. Don Johnson.
Wow, you are okay. Wow. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's get to my pick.
Yeah, let's get to your Duke Leto.
So it's a Kubrick film. Malcolm McDowell.
Oh God, yes.
Malcolm McDowell.
No doubt.
Keep it British and keep it in family, and that was probably my easiest pick of all of these, to be quite honest with you. I did not struggle. I wanted to put him in. I figured that was the role that would have made the most sense. So yes. Moving on to Baron Harkonnen.
Yes.
Very vile, disgusting Harkonnen Baron. I don't know.
He's gross.
He's probably got other titles. I didn't glean from the David Lynch movie, but that's all I took away, is that he's just a big, fat, gross pile of pus.
Yes, he is.
So I'm going the American route here, and this would have been very, very, very. It would look very poorly on the Americans if we were doing this allegory wise. So I'm going to pick somebody that was just kind of a little gross to the eye. At least I thought so. I mean, I might get some heat for this, but I'm going with Ernest Borgnine.
Holy shit, you and I landed on the same thing.
No way.
Yes.
Ernest Borgnine?
Ernest Borgnine was my Baron Harkonnen.
Oh my God. Oh
yeah.
Okay. Tell me why you came to him. I think I kind of laid it out.
The same
insultingly.
thing. Same thing. No, it's insultingly, but he's perfect for that role. You can easily, with good makeup and everything, you could easily make him a villainous Baron Harkonnen. Yes, Ernest Borgnine. Yeah,
I'm a little blown away. I can guarantee our Chani will not be the same. I'm pretty sure our Fade is the last two that we're both casting. You got a couple others you want to throw in.
I do got a couple others.
But that's amazing to me. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
Well, Ernest Borgnine wins then.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is another thing that's kind of cool. That's the second time in 3 shows now that we've landed on the same pick.
In person, yeah. You're right.
Chloe Grace Moretz and Ernest Borgnine, the most unlikely two actors
that we're going to land on.
Somehow found their way into our brains. That's awesome. All right, cool. Let's go to Chani. I'm going to let you go first, and I'm going to tell you mine and explain how I came to her.
I went with, because I'm going for ethnic, and they're, sadly, and I really had to scowl and look for things, and I didn't realize how white the 80s were in Hollywood. And I wanted to give someone a break, and someone who did eventually make it in the movies, and this would have been it. And I also understand that in the books, they're much younger than they're portrayed in the movies. Mm-hmm. Being the love interest of one Scott Baio is going to be one Lisa Bonet. Bonet.
Was she acting at that time?
She was acting at that time.
That would have been Cosby Show. This would have been. Was she already on the Cosby Show?
She was already on the Cosby Show at that point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She was acting at that. Yep. Lisa Bonet.
Lisa Bonet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I went a similar route, but I took a different path. And maybe one that I will have to defend a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So I also wanted it to be a minority group, but one in particular. I was going Native American.
Ooh, okay.
That was the big allegory that I was going for, is, this British family that's, handles themselves well, keeps themselves clean. I don't know. And then this gross American, family. And then they're both basically destroying this planet, or, going after the spice melange.
Spice melange. The spice.
The spice.
The spice must flow.
The spices must flow. So I went with Native American. Now, before I give my pick, because it's going to raise an eyebrow or two, she is part Native American, first of all. Most people won't know this, but she is. And I was a little bit, I didn't believe it at first as well, but it's true. But I want to also say that the entire, what's the name of the Sand people? I forget.
The Fremen.
Okay, the entire Fremen clan or whatever, they would be Native American actors. Even the leader, Stiglitz. No, that wasn't.
Stilgar.
would be a Native American actor. You're picking him. I'm not. But yes. I mean, for me, it would just be a prominent Native American actor, somebody that would get a shot at a meaty role in a big Stanley Kubrick sci-fi production. But Chani, I thought, well, I would make the love story a little more than 2 minutes long.
Right.
And I would pick, I'm beating around the bush because I know you're going to be like, what?
Let's just do it.
Heather Locklear.
We'll talk about this. All right. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this. Okay.
Who's your Chani?
I already told you my Chani. My Chani was Lisa Bonet.
Oh, that's right.
No, we're on the fade. We're on the fade. We're on the sting. Sorry. No, you're fine. We're on the sting.
The sting. Okay.
Sting.
So I'll go first here. So Sting, miscasting. God, bajillion % miscasting on this call. He was awful. And I love Sting. I'm a huge.
You are a huge Sting fan.
Musically, this was painful to watch. And he's trying to play this edgy bad guy. My first instinct, which is not who I landed on, because he's not American, but my first instinct was I wanted to figure out a way to justify putting Johnny Rotten in that role.
Okay.
Didn't go that route because of the rules I laid out for myself. So I went with a early 80s bad boy that was cast in a lot of early 80s bad boy roles. And he's kind of a vapid actor, not super talented, kind of would represent like a dumb American to me. I went with William Zabka.
Oh, I do like the William Zabka.
The Karate Kid.
Yes, I do like him, and yes, I could see him being that. I picked someone that was also kind of vaping, someone that was a problem, but he wasn't in the 80s. He later became a problem, and was prominent in the 80s for a lot of things, and would have, I think, brought in star power.
Okay.
I went with Jan Michael Vincent.
Ooh. I knew you would pull out the Jan Michael Vincent at some point. I knew you were holding that one in your pocket, just waiting for the right moment. And okay. Let's debate these picks, shall we?
I'm going to just say, because I want to...
Oh, that's right. Yes, yeah. you have two addendums here. That you want
two addendums.
A little bit of extra credit from Tom here.
Yes, because there's so many characters in this movie, and this is one of those movies where it's almost the opposite, because there's too many characters in movies, but in this one there's a lot of things, and I think time is what made the problem with this movie.
Sure.
Which is why I think it's great that the remake is going to go in parts. I don't know why anyone would ever assume to make Dune a single movie. I wanted, for my Stilgar, Edward James Olmos.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And for the Reverend Mother, who I think has a really good dynamic with Lady Jessica, which isn't shown in the movie but is shown in the books, there was nothing that would keep people out of the theater to see Joan Collins be an antagonist to Victoria Principal.
Wow. Yeah. Yes. Those are both very solid picks for me. I wouldn't have anybody better to offer up. I endorse both of those. We don't even need to debate them. I concede they're nice job, Tom.
Thank you.
Nice job on those two.
Dune is my love. Dune is my love.
Yes. Let's talk about our directors, shall we?
Yes.
So I'm a Terry Gilliam fan.
Yep. I'm a Kubrick fan.
Yes. So we both like each other's picks. I think we're in the same universe. I would say mine is maybe a little more sober.
I'm giving you that. You that. I should have thought Kubrick, and I didn't. And if he had came across my mind, I would have done it. Kubrick, hands down, should have been the director of Dune.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I will. I'll take that. So let's go to Paul. I had Gary Oldman.
And I had
Scott Baio.
Scott Baio.
Shachi himself.
I did. Okay, here's why. And I'm going to say that I'm going with yours. You have some really strong picks here. Gary Oldman, yes. The only reason why I went with Scott Baio was because you're supposed to have this white off-worlder. I mean, there's a lot of parallels going on in Dune here. Mm-hmm. And he eventually becomes taken into the Fremen. And I thought it'd be very easy to make Scott Baio pale in this time, with the makeup and everything, and slowly make him unpale. That guy could get a tan. And
that criteria right there. He can change his skin tone. It's perfect.
Without having to resort to see Thomas Howell. But Scott Baio, as much as I hate him, he was on fire in the 80s. And I'm sorry, Paul Atreides and Dune in itself, it's science fiction. We're not making a big fuck drama here. And I mean, I love your picks, but I thought, this is akin. I mean, even though you wouldn't have had Star Wars without Dune. A lot of people don't know that. Star Wars was written years ago, and Dune is the quintessential blueprint to all modern sci-fi. You could trace all modern sci-fi elements to Dune, but it's not exactly high art either. It's high nerd, and I'll be the first one to admit that. So I didn't, but that's why I went with Scott Baio, because I felt he could do Paul Atreides. It's not a hard part to play. But Gary Oldman, fuck yes.
I mean, we're not pulling punches here, right? And I'm prepared. I'm prepared for you to lay into me on picks that I make either on this segment and future segments and in future episodes. And you are, boy howdy, you are more than welcome and invited to do it. But by God, man, I think Kyle MacLachlan is a better pick than Scott Baio.
Again, I like Kyle MacLachlan.
I hated Kyle MacLachlan in this role. That kind of tells you.
Yeah, I love Kyle MacLachlan in that role.
Charles in charge. Oh,
yeah. I love Kyle MacLachlan as Paul Atreides. I think he did a great job.
And I usually like Kyle MacLachlan. Like, I don't have this just, what I watched of Twin Peaks, I will say that he is the most engaging part of the show for me is the way he plays that character. But it maybe wasn't his fault. It's probably how it was written, and his character arc was just too sharp and too sudden.
Yes. But, and one day I will sit down with you and we will watch the long version of it. And one night we'll get drunk and we'll watch the long version of it, and you will see that he is much better than what you got.
Bring a lot of booze.
Dude, we'll get hammered.
Okay. Let's go to our Lady Jessica picks.
Yes.
So I had Helen Mirren.
Yep.
And you had, remind me again. Victoria Principal. Yes. Mm-hmm. Victoria Principal, huh?
Yes. I like my pick on that. I like Victoria Principal, oddly enough. And so what you need to understand about the Bene Gesserit is that there's a lot of weird shit in the book. Mm-hmm. And they are trained in the art of sexual manipulation. Okay?
Sure.
They don't really go into it, but they talk about the Quasar Haderach. And there's a lot of different ways you can pronounce that. But the whole thing with that they've been doing for centuries, and they don't really go in this well in the movie, is they have been using mind techniques and controlling powerful men through sex into this breeding program to create the chosen one, essentially, to make them, to raise them up and make them in charge of the universe.
Sure.
And so that element is lost. Like you don't know that from the movie. But I know that from the background. I just think Victoria Principal, man, yeah, you can't go wrong with that character.
Okay. I'll give you that. I will. I mean, I love Helen Mirren, but I mean, I don't think Victoria Principal would necessarily fit with my vision. But I would say she'd fit very well with your vision and what you're trying to do. And Helen Mirren, as great as she is, I wouldn't say that she's the only one I could see in the role.
As she's awesome. I love Helen. I love Helen Mirren dearly as an actress. Right. She's phenomenal. But I I'm not saying she's a Scott Baio pick, but it's a little, my opinion.
Let's go to Duke Leto Atreides.
Yes. Remind me who you had.
Malcolm McDowell.
I have Don Johnson. God damn it. God damn it.
Oh, my God.
So I want you to understand my vision a little bit, because I think my vision will make sense. When I scoured these things, I was looking for who were the top actors in the 80s. Who were the ones that were the box office that were drawing in the audience?
Was he box office, though? He was TV's Don Johnson.
He was TV's Don Johnson.
There were TV actors and film actors in the 80s, man. It's not like today.
It's not like today.
Big difference.
But Don Johnson was breaking in the movies. And he was doing things. I mean, in 1995, he did The Long Hot Summer. In 1975, he did The Boy and His Dog. So he's been doing movies, but he went to TV because it was a little bit more of a steady paycheck. I loved him. He came back for a couple of Dusk Till Dawn TV series, and it was great.
He was really good at it's kind of a spoiler, but he was really good in the one episode of the Watchmen TV series that just aired too.
Yeah, he's
not a bad actor. He's not a bad actor.
He's not a bad actor. And so but you're gonna put me in a casting room and you're gonna bring in Don Johnson and you're gonna bring in Malcolm McDowell. I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot. Of course I'm fucking taking Malcolm McDowell. Like, really? I'm not dumb. Yes, it's Malcolm McDowell.
All right. Okay. I mean, to be fair, you did get me a little bit less off of being, what the word would be here, baffled by the pick of Don Johnson. Like, I mean, the more I think about it, the more it's like, it's not a terrible pick.
He's not in the movie much. He's not a main character. He sets stuff up, and then no spoilers here. The books and the movies are old. He gets fucking killed.
Right. Okay. All right. Moving on. We both picked Ernest Borgnine of all people for Baron Harkonnen.
So dude, have you seen him? This is like Clint Howard. Of course you're going to put Ernest Borgnine in there. Yes. He's short. He balded early. He
wasn't short, was he? He wasn't like a short guy.
I thought he was a shorter dude.
I don't know. But he was rotund.
He was. And, you could easily, with makeup and things of that nature, yes, I think I'm actually not surprised that we landed on Ernest Borgnine now that I think about it, because who else are you going to do?
God, I thought I was so proud of the pick. And I thought, wow, he's not going to see this coming. Ernest Borgnine, who the fuck would pick him for anything? But yeah, the more you reason it out, I mean, there's a reason why we're friends, I guess. We think very alike at times, and Ernest Borgnine is one of those times.
One of those times. All right.
Johnny, played by Sean Young in the original.
And,
oh, God.
That was not a good pick.
If I hated any casting worse than I hated Kyle MacLachlan, it was definitely Sean Young. As small as her part was, It was Sean Young.
So can I say, without getting too much heat in this podcast, that I am not a Sean Young fan?
You can say that. I will back you up because I am not a Sean Young fan either.
I think the only thing I've ever appreciated her in was Ace Ventura. And I don't like that movie.
Excuse me. Oh, you don't like Ace Ventura?
I don't like Ace Ventura.
I like that movie.
No, I'm not a Jim Carrey fan.
Oh.
No, I never have been.
Okay.
I like him. I liked him in Eternal Sunshine. I liked him in Truman, but his comedy never did it for me. Like that '90s comedy of Pauly Shore and.
Don't put Jim Carrey and Pauly Shore in the same category. That's not
comedy
fair.
to me. It's a similar comedy to me. It's a similar comedy to me. It really is.
Okay.
It's to me. It's in the same drug class. It's in the same drug class, dude. But you went with Heather Locklear.
I did. And of course she would have, she couldn't be rocking her blonde do. I mean, she would need to, dye her hair, to match the rest of the Fremen. So
I got to say too, I know she's half Native American. I didn't know that. And I loved her in Return of the Swamp Thing. That's actually that was my first introduction to Heather Locklear. She was
you didn't watch any Melrose Place back in the day?
Dude, Return of Swamp Thing was before that.
Oh, was it?
Oh God, yeah. No, she was in the sequel, the very terrible sequel, Return of the Swamp Thing. And that was my first introduction to the Heather Locklear, and that was 1989. Okay. No, I have to go with my Lisa Bonet, dude. I don't.
Yeah, I like your Lisa Bonet. I mean, again, wouldn't fit the theme of my movie, so it's not like I can say, yeah, we're making a co-op effort here.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as what you're trying to do, I think she's probably your strongest pick aside from Ernest Borgnine. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you that. I mean, I don't think you pick Heather Locklear expecting to win.
Right.
You're just kind of trying to, have a hot take or, have a, not controversial, but something that is fun to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And anytime we can talk about Heather Locklear, I will, because we're a product of the 80s.
Sure.
But yeah, I just think for that, I mean, I'll probably cast her in something else that we do, but not for Chani.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Fade.
Right. Remind me, who's your fade?
William Zabka.
To my Jan Michael
Johnny himself. Jan Michael, 6 of 1, half a dozen kind of.
Yeah, that's the same vein, isn't it? I put that in the same pool.
I would say yours has more talent. So I mean, I would say we're kind of.
Oh, I think that's mean of William Zabka. I mean,
oh come on,
Jan Michael.
Have you seen this new Karate Kid show?
I watched the first
Cobra Kai.
I watched the first.
He's not a good actor. He's not a good actor, but he can play a role. He can play the William Zabka character very well. And I'm like arguing against my pick right now. What's going on here? No, I think if you're going to put those two and we're going to, again, we both kind of have the same idea of what we're looking for. So then it's easier. It's the same thing last week when I put up James Cromwell. And you put up Sexy Beast.
Yeah, I put up Ben Kingsley.
Mm-hmm. Ben Kingsley's just better than James Cromwell. They're both great.
Yeah.
What they do. And in that case, they both are great. Like this case, they're not both great. They're just really good at what they do.
Yeah.
So I'll give you Jan Michael Vince on that. I don't have any qualms about that. I think it's pretty even. I think maybe the top end I kind of came out on top, but you kind of came back here in the last couple picks.
You had a better front running cast. I think I had a better B cast.
Sure.
And I can't go wrong. And I will admit this was so hard for me, bro.
Yeah.
I know you had to sit through Dune.
Yep.
But I love that movie. And one of the things I think why I appreciate it is because I appreciate the books. Mm-hmm. And I can fill in the missing pieces.
Sure.
From the books. So, and that I think is what ultimately led to the downfall of this movie. Mm-hmm. Was, as you said, it was cold, it was heartless, it was what it was missing. And yes,
and poorly acted, and the special effect. I mean, again, early 80s special effects, you're limited, but certain directors can work with that. Like, Stanley Kubrick was making sci-fi in the 60s that looked amazing. Like, you don't need to, that box, what was that? That force field box thing that what was that?
Okay, you haven't.
That was the worst. That was so bad. That was like early Saturday morning kids TV show effects right there. That was terrible.
That is Lynch. And I will say that part is Lynch. And you have Netflix, right?
I do. Everybody does.
When you get a chance, it's only 17 minutes long. It's called
the monkey thing?
The monkey thing. It's called What Did Jack Do? And I want you to watch that just because I want you to see the special effects that he goes for, that Lynch goes for. And it's very reminiscent of 50s special effects. Everything that Lynch does, and you haven't watched Twin Peaks: The Return yet, which you should just get to, because really you don't need to watch anything. You know enough about Twin Peaks. You should just watch it because it is an event. It is something. You're going to see some special effects in there that you're going to go, what the shit is this? And you're going to realize that's pure Lynch right here. So I think Dune is not a good representation of what Lynch is about. This is what happens when Lynch gets steamrolled by a studio. He takes his ball and goes home and says fuck it and makes it terrible on purpose. Right. He is very much a child in that way.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that wraps it up. So we had a lot of Dune talk here in this segment, and I'm sure we'll certainly revisit it when the new Dune, I believe, comes out in December 20. It's about 10 months from now, 9 or 10 months from now. So we'll definitely revisit it at that point and see if we were happy with how it turned out compared to this train wreck version.
I already have a sitter lined up for the opening.
Nice. Plan ahead. It's always smart. All right, let's go to another ad break, and then we will come back, and I think I got a game we can play. What do you say to that?
I got no pants. I love games. Dylan, take us to the ad.
There we go. All right, we'll be back in a couple.
Hey, you ever needed a box, but there was no box to be found? No matter how long or how hard you looked around and around. Hey, if that ever happened to you, heck, go to Ted Mills's box store. We sell boxes. Hey, boxes are forever. They never die. At Ted Mills's box store, you will see why. So, big boxes, small boxes, medium boxes, all sizes. Boxes hold so many things. Boxes, boxes, boxes. Ted Mills Box Store on Pelican Street, right next to that Dairy Queen there. You know the one. If you need boxes, Ted Mills is your guy. Talk to me. I'm Ted Mills.
Welcome back to Guess That Movie. And we are continuing to roll along here, Tom. We had a nice big long Dune talk, but we have more show to do. We should probably get to that, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
I know it's always hard to say goodbye to the Dune, but
bye, Dune. Bye. I love you. I love you.
Okay. Yes.
It doesn't. It's cold, Tom. It does not love you back.
I don't think Lynch loves anybody.
So we are gonna move on to Is This Where Are They Now? A game we've been playing that has been a lot of fun. Basically, Tom and I each pick somebody from obscurity, somebody from the past who has, I guess, more so disappeared into obscurity, and we tell a story about where they are these days, and the other has to determine, is that true or is it bullshit? So you reached out to me. You didn't tell me obviously who you're doing or if what you're going to tell me is true or not, but you did say you put a lot of work into it, and it's long-winded, I guess. Would that be fair?
It's long-winded in terms of, yes. So I'll do mine. I'll start with mine because I think you started last week.
Okay.
I went looking for someone, and in trying to find someone, I found someone else. And then I had to go back to the person I originally found because I cannot find anything on this dude. I don't know what happened to him. And I did an exhausting search. Truth be told, Joad and I, we go way back, and we used to work for a company where we'd have to, what was called skip trace people, like find them when they disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot find this motherfucker anywhere but on Twitter occasionally, where you just post something random. The movie Super 8 had a lot of people that never went on to do anything, and one of the actors there is Zach Mills. He disappeared, man. I wanted to do Zach Mills.
Which one was he now?
He was the nerdier one that was sick all the time. I watched it with my kid. This is how it came up because I watched it with the kids, and but yeah, he was. I've got to remember his name here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna find it for you.
So I can remember clearly 4 kids from Super 8.
He was Preston. He was Preston.
So he was the one with glasses, right?
He was the one with the moppy hair.
And like the braces and
yeah. Yes.
Blonde hair braces.
Nope. You're thinking some. No, this was the one that was very like, I'm gonna die. I need my medications. He was the.
Okay, I got you. But you couldn't find anything on him.
No. So instead, I ended up finding more about Riley. His name was Riley Griffiths, and he was the director kid in Super 8. He was the heavyset one that that had the crush on Dakota Fanning,
sure,
or Ellie Fanning.
Yep.
And so I found him. He was Charles Kasnick.
Okay.
So with him, interesting story about him. Like, I which doesn't shock me at this point because you got one actor I couldn't find, and now you got this. So Riley Griffiths moved to Issaquah, the Sammamish area of Washington after that movie. His parents moved. He didn't want to be in movies anymore. I don't know why. He was done. He started going to a high school called Skyline High School, where he started playing football as defensive lineman. That didn't go well for him. He ended up busting up his knee for a little bit and got out. And when he graduated from school, he moved to Seattle and started working for the unfortunate Walsh Construction Company, which was the subject, and he was the official subject for a Seattle Planet magazine expose called Walsh Construction Company, the worst workers in the world, in June of 2018, where they talked about this particular construction company that was working on an area, area in Seattle. Apparently there were explosions. A kid got hit by one of the workers driving in there. They called him Sam throughout the article, but then later it came out this was him. It was noted that not like it was, this guy from the movie, but he spoke to this magazine under a pseudonym, and they found out And 4 months later, he was fired when they did an expose that this person, Sam, that the Seattle Planet magazine interviewed, fired this guy. And nothing. I can't find anything else on this guy.
So you don't know where are he now.
I mean, all I know is in 2018 he was working for the Walsh Construction Company, was in this magazine, the Seattle Planet magazine expose, was fired, and he's gone to obscurity. It's kind of like Jake Ryan, because you can't buy his furniture. You have to go to a store. He doesn't advertise it online. Like, I don't know what happened in Super 8 and why everyone who was in Super 8 can't get anything if it's a curse.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, none of the kids in that I can recall seeing in other projects.
No.
Which is weird for that kind of a movie. Like, it had like a Goonies vibe to it.
Very much so.
So that's the conclusion of your story.
That's the conclusion of my story. After this article, it was just notated in the article that they did an update 4 months later. They're still the worst company. There was another fucking explosion, and this guy that ratted out what was going on internally was fired.
Wow. Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. First off, I should preface it that I have no idea. I didn't know what this actor's name was. I know who you're talking about because, of course, I've seen Super 8, but that's a tough one. I should almost just flip a coin because I could see it going either way. I'm going to call bullshit.
You fuckface. Yes, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
So good, man. That's two good ones that I just, like, on impulse just called bullshit, but I could have bought it. Like, it's so bizarre. Oh, so what's the real story of this guy?
So the real story to this guy was he was a defensive lineman. He did go to Skyline High School. They did move to Ishqua, the Sammamish area. All of that was true, except that he did very well and logged 18 tackles as a defensive, 83 tackles as a lineman. Gave the average team 13.5 for a loss and 9.5 tackles as sacks as a senior, and went on to play college football for the Montana Wildcats. And when he's done with college, he wants to go work behind the scenes in movies. Yeah, that's the real story.
Oh, ooh, God! Did this other thing happen, or did you just make it all up?
Part of it. I made part of it up.
Wow.
So the truth is, I did kind of look for some. I wanted to put him in construction. Okay, because I thought that made sense. Him going in construction, and
He's
in my
big.
lie,
He can lift things.
In my lie, to find a construction company in the Seattle area or in the Washington area, I came across this expose about the Walsh Construction Company, the worst workers in the world. That's a real article. That actually happened. He just wasn't a part of it.
Wow. So you really worked hard on this, and it shows. Like, you did your research, just like last week. I mean, again, I got lucky both times, I'll be honest with you, because they were both very, very tempting to say yeah. I was on the edge of my seat buying it so much, and there was not a single thing that made me think it was not real, and that's what made me think it was not real, if that makes any sense to you.
It was, it's I've been watching a lot of Penn and Teller, and it's called The Perfect Magic Trick. If there's only one way you could do the magic trick, that's the one way you did the magic trick.
Right.
I put myself into too perfect of a lie. All right.
Okay, well, I first up, before I go into mine, and mine is also a former child star. We just cannot seem to get away with this, but it's just the ripest of people to choose from, isn't it? I mean, yours last week was arguably not a child star, although he kind of was. Jake Ryan from 16 Candles. Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to not find an obscure child star and to go that route. I'm going to continue, though, with mine being happy. My child star is Jonathan K. Kwan, best known for playing Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, as well as Data from the Goonies. Now, I'm not as confident in this one. There's a good chance you might already know the answer to this as to whether I'm just going to make this up or whether I'm telling you the truth. But I anticipated you would have a very long, drawn-out one, and for time purposes, I got a little quick hitter here, and it's just got a bang of an ending, and you tell me if this is actually what happened or not. Okay, so his career as an actor kind of fizzled out after he hit it big with those two, noteworthy roles. And he finally ended his career as an actor after a small role in the Pauly Shore vehicle Encino Man. He went off to college, learned some stuff about production, but eventually was able to fall back on his Taekwondo training from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and parlay that into a career as a stunt coordinator. And his most famous projects were for the original X-Men movie and Jet Li's The One. And beyond that, he's lived a very normal life, does some conventions here and there, but stunt coordination is what eventually Short Round ended up doing for a living. True or false?
You're at a disadvantage on this one, bro. I know this one. That is true.
All right. I got just like Jake Lloyd. Yep. No, I figured that I might be reaching a little thin here.
No, it's good. He's one of those things because I looked into him. The only reason why I know is because I looked into him actually a couple of years ago because Long Duck Dong came back and was doing TV, and I was like, whatever happened to Short Round? And yeah, so that was a rabbit hole I did.
We possibly could have inspired you to want to know what happened to the Short Round after Long Duck Dong reappeared on your television screen. I wonder.
Yeah, I know.
Where's the correlation?
The correlation? But I love them both, and because I love 16 Candles. Actually, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, and which I'm admitting on air.
Tom Van Horton likes 16 Candles.
So
that's okay. I support you.
Yeah. So no, unfortunately, I did know that one. That one is true, and yeah, that's absolutely awesome that he was able to fall back on his Taekwondo.
Yeah,
and do stunt coordinating.
All right. Well, we did not fool each other this go round. So if I remember right, our tally is still me 1, you 0, but you are still 1 game away from tying this all up.
Yes, sir. I will at some point. Okay.
Let's move on to the Late Wars Part 2. Tom, will you tell our listeners what this story is all about, please?
Yeah, so in order to start this story, we got to go back several years to the original Late Wars, going back to Johnny Carson, David Letterman, and Jay Leno. As was, I think everyone can agree, and without sounding dated, Johnny Carson probably is the greatest talk show host of all time for nightly. You could go back and watch his stuff. He's dated, sure, but you watch the way he interacts with people, and it's phenomenal. Like, he was such a charismatic dude.
See, I got to stop you there. I would say, what's your definition of late night talk show host? I got to say, mine is, I would say Jon Stewart was better than anybody I've ever seen at both of those things.
Okay, let me say network then, because I do agree. Okay. I do agree. Yes. Of the network ones, he was the archetype, right? Like, everyone wanted to be Johnny Carson.
Yes.
Well, as was tradition, typically that you had the Tonight Show and then you had the Late Show after the Tonight Show. And the person that was on the Tonight Show or that was on the Late Show was going to inherit. That's just the way it was kind of set up to go. And Johnny Carson took some vacations, and David Letterman could not do both shows, so stand-up comedian Jay Leno started doing these takes for when Carson was gone. And this opened up the door of maybe it's not going to be David Letterman. And the story went at the time, and there's debate now, because we'll get into our part 2, but the story was that Jay Leno's agent at the time did some backdoor dealings and screwed over David Letterman, and ended up taking over Tonight Show, which left to David Letterman having a huge feud with NBC, never going back to them, and basically creating the Late Night Wars by making a competitive show to run against the Tonight Show. Well, do you have anything quick to add to that, if you remember any of that flavor?
No, that's about right. There was, we should mention there was a Late Wars movie that was made. It was a made-for-TV HBO movie that was made shortly after all this had played out. That really illustrates, and it certainly does not make Jay Leno look good, as far as his behind the scenes wrangling and campaigning and politicking for the job. But no, that pretty much sums it up. It sets the scene too that Jay Leno is a controversial figure in late night, I guess would be a safe statement. So yeah, though that kind of gives it, you know, with Jay and with David Letterman, that history there what kind of precedes what happens with part 2. And why don't you go ahead and tell them what that was?
So part 2 was NBC decided that it was time for Jay Leno to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And Conan O'Brien came on after his show, and it was, we're going to give it to Conan. This is what it's going to be. So 5 years before his actual forced retirement, he came out 5 years and said, hey, I'm leaving in 5 years. It's going to go to Conan O'Brien. It's going to be in good hands. You know, and people were going on the Conan O'Brien show even 5 years earlier saying, gee, it's not going anywhere. Do you watch this? Like Howard Stern, famously, you could go back and look at some of YouTube's clips, told him, and this was going to happen. Well, 5 years later comes, it's time for Jay Leno to leave, and Jay Leno starts behaving like a small child and doesn't want to leave.
Right.
And they're like, nope, this is what it's going to be. So it goes to Conan, and then Jay Leno starts having conversations with NBC to create the Jay Leno show, which was a short-lived piece of crap. And then he politicked and did all the stuff, and he was using the ratings from the show because there was the age gap there between who was watching Leno and who was watching Conan. And they decided that they were going to give Jay Leno the Jay Leno show where the Tonight Time slot was.
Right.
And Jay Leno was fine with that, and they were going to move to Tonight Show. And God bless Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien said, I'm not going to let that happen.
Right.
This is a tradition. This is important. The Tonight Show means something.
He put the institution over himself, and the history, and like you said, the tradition over his own personal ego.
And it led to him having a serious breakdown and him going on a very angry comedy tour for a while and kind of figuring out what his life was going to be. But then he was basically gone, and Jay Leno got his toy back, and then his ratings dropped very quickly because everyone was so fed up about it that along comes Jimmy Fallon, who was doing the weekend updates and was on Saturday Night Live and had kind of had the ins at NBC, and they're like, we're giving it to Fallon. End of fucking story. Jay Leno, you're gone.
Right.
And Conan, but we're fucked on that deal. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, but Conan, to be fair here, Conan, his brand of humor, which is I like, and I'm a big Conan O'Brien fan. It's not as broad as Jay Leno or Jimmy Fallon, I would say, to a large degree. So there was always that concern with Conan and them giving him the keys to this kingdom and worrying what he might do with it. And he didn't have the chance to make it his own. It was way too brief of a time period before they yanked it away from him. But yeah, there is that there. It's just that Conan is he's a weird guy. He's not a typical talk show host. So there's that element of it too, is just like they playing it safe versus taking a risk. I would argue Letterman was more of a risky choice. They chose not to take that. Then Conan was a risky choice, and they chose to just kind of screw him over and not really give him a chance. They keep going back to play it safe instead of, trying to reinvent it to keep it fresh. So yeah, that's really all I have to add to it. So why don't we go ahead and assign a director visionary who we think could bring this story to life. I'm going to let you go first.
Of course you are. I always, me, I'm going to go outside the box.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of dialogue story here. And I think there's a directing pair that does very well with this. And I would love to see them do this. I would totally go see, because I see every one of their movies, and I think you see every one of their movies. Coen brothers.
Yeah, I don't know. I do they direct? Do they both direct? I think only Ethan directs.
Ethan directs, yeah. But they still put everything under the Coen brothers, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a package deal. You take one, you get the other, for sure. So you mean Joel would have, if it's not Joel that directs, honestly, I can't remember offhand.
I can't remember offhand either. It's super late when we do these podcasts.
Yeah. So no, it's fair to put them as a pair. Coen brothers. Yeah, that's a solid pick. I went with a noob director.
Okay.
She has made exactly one film. It's called Booksmart.
I have not seen that.
And it was I honestly not a movie I was a huge fan of overall, but her directing in it and what she accomplished look wise I think would work well for this project I'm going. Her name is Olivia Wilde. She's better known as an actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I didn't realize she got into directing.
Yes, she did, and it's a movie worth watching, if not, just for her directing alone. But yeah, I think she can make it look clean, look good, like she did with that movie, and even the source material there, I wasn't in love with. I think this would be better, and she could do more with it, and she could kind of tackle the fragile male ego from a woman's perspective, which I think would definitely be interesting to watch.
Okay. All right. We'll get to that when we get to our picks. Okay.
Yep. So let's go to Conan. I guess I'll start here. Conan's hard because Conan's got a very, very distinctive look. I couldn't find anybody that looks just or even close to looks like Conan that I would trust to act a role as Conan. So I went with somebody that kind of looks like him vaguely. He's tall and lanky, but I think he could pull off the role and kind of do his own thing with it. Just give him a big wig of Conan hair. You'd have to do a wig. But I'm going with John Mulaney.
Okay. Solid pick. They know each other from SNL and writing casts and things like that. Okay. I'm throwing a monkey wrench into the game.
Sure.
Joad.
I love it. I love monkey wrenches. They're my favorite kind of wrenches.
I picked two people to play Conan because I'm going to give you the ability to veto one.
Oh, okay. This is an interesting twist.
I could only think of one person to play Conan O'Brien, dude, and I'm Tilda Swinton.
I considered her. I'm not even joking. I considered her.
She's the only one I could think to play Conan was Tilda Swinton. So I picked another one if you wanted the veto. If you wanted to veto Tilda, but
why would I veto Tilda? Who is your other one? Just out of curiosity, it won't count, but I'm just curious.
Justin Timberlake.
Okay, Tilda's a better pick.
Tilda was my stronger pick.
The only thing there is the voice. And
that's we live in an age, and we talked about this. There's no de-aging in my movies this time around.
Great.
But there is voice modulation. There's things you can do in post-edit.
I don't know. She's so brilliant, though, you might not even need to.
You might not even need it.
All right, let's go on to Jay Leno. You can go first here.
Jay Leno. I hate Jay Leno as a human being. I think he's a pile of shit. I'm not even going to hold back. Like, I don't care if he ever hears this podcast or things like this. We're not doing this to be friends.
I don't want him to listen to our podcast. Fuck him.
Fuck Jay Leno.
Fuck you, Jay Leno.
Fuck Jay Leno. And I want to pick someone that I think could have played him shittily.
Okay.
And I think you could throw makeup on and get him to go. Jay Moore.
Yep. Yeah, I could maybe see it. I don't know. Is Jay Moore? I'd have to look into whether they're close. I guess that's not necessarily a non-starter, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that. I just can't turn my brain off whenever you give me these names. I gotta always talk it out, and I gotta stop doing that.
It's all good. It's all good.
I picked somebody that I know doesn't like Jay Leno.
Okay.
And yes, I think with anybody, you're going to need makeup. You got very few people have that kind of chin.
Yeah.
The guy they picked for the original Late Wars, by the way, character actor guy, has a good chin to play Jay Leno. I think he did an admirable job for what the project was. Not picking him though. I am picking Jimmy Kimmel.
Ooh.
And I think he'd do it because I think Jimmy Kimmel was Team Conan the whole time, right? Team Coco.
Yes, he was. He was very Team Coco.
I think he'd do it. I think he'd have fun with it, and I think he would just be mean about it. And I love it. I want Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay. All right, we'll discuss that. What do we got next?
We got Jimmy Fallon. All right, I'll go first here. Jimmy Fallon for me, I don't know. I found somebody that looks like him. So there's been a joke between the two of them whenever this guy is on Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, okay.
You kind of know where I'm going here?
I kind of know where you're going.
Yep. It's Josh Radnor from How I Met Your Mother. He'd be fine. I don't know. It's Jimmy Fallon. He's kind of the lightweight in this group to me.
He was on my short list, actually.
Yeah.
I think we're swimming in the same pool. I will totally admit it right now. I don't love my pick.
Okay.
Justin Long.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say it's a similar-ish pool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely say it. Yeah. Well, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Let's go to David Letterman. Why don't you start off on this pick?
Yeah. So David Letterman, another interesting guy, someone that, looks, things of that nature.
It's hard.
It's hard.
These guys are hard. Yes.
These guys are hard, but I did find an actor that has hit obscurity, and much like I like to do, I've done in every one of our things, bringing back someone from obscurity,
sure,
and making them relevant again. Johnny Lee Miller.
Oh, from Hackers?
From Hackers. Johnny Lee Miller from Hackers. He's done other things besides Hackers, bro.
Oh, yeah, he was just he's not from obscurity. He was just in that elementary show, the Sherlock
He was in the elementary school, but he's not on TV. I mean, he's not in movie. I mean, the last movie he did was he redid Sick Boy from Train Spotting. Right. But before that, he wasn't in anything since 2012, and he's not slated to be in anything anytime soon.
Okay, Johnny Lee Miller it is.
Yep.
My pick is somebody that doesn't look like David Letterman at all, but I call this guy my ace in the hole. Like, if there's ever an actor that I need to just portray somebody he looks nothing like, I know he can pull it off because he's done it many times. He played Dick Cheney. He looks nothing like Dick Cheney at all.
Yep.
Christian Bale.
I can see that. I like Bale. I like Bale a lot.
And he can play anybody.
He can play anybody. Bale's a great actor. All right, so finally we got to our Andy Richter. Who do you got?
Andy Richter.
Who do you get?
I'm sticking. This was another tough one for me because there's not a lot of guys that look like Andy Richter. I would have loved to do like Louis.
Yep.
Louis Anderson but he's way too old at this point.
He's way too old.
So I went the same route I did with Jay Leno. I am picking James Corden. Just based off looks and hoping he can nail something similar to an Andy Richter accent or whatever. Sounds somewhat like him, and hope it works out. I couldn't come up with anybody better, honestly. I don't want my pick.
Okay. For my Andy Richter, I was actually depressed because there is someone that I think is better than my pick out there. Unfortunately, he's deceased, and I think this would have been a perfect role for Chris Farley.
Yes.
Had he been alive, I would have definitely taken Chris Farley, but I can't. So I took another portly actor who's come back from obscurity and is doing work now and has been very successful and was very well liked on Netflix, Sean Astin.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we got our picks out there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start at the top and kind of debate each one by one.
Sure.
So for director, I had Olivia Wilde. Like I said, she was the director of Booksmart, and you had again
the Coen brothers.
I mean, we're from Minnesota. How do we not go Coen brothers? I mean,
it's nothing against Olivia Wilde. I don't know her directing style, so I can't. I can't pick her, right? Unfortunately, because I don't know how she does. So you are more in line with that. I personally, though, I thought this, I'm like, this feels like totally in the Coen brothers wheelhouse.
No, that's fair. Although I'm going to stick with I'm going to stand by my woman.
That's fair. Stand by. And that's, I said, I can't because I haven't seen her movie.
No, that's understandable. I mean, it's worth watching just to see her work.
Sure.
It's not going to change your life, like content wise, but just technique wise, I think she just does a really good job in it. Falls apart in the third act, but whatever. So yeah, we're just going to kind of go back to our corners there. I think that's a fair outcome. But Conan O'Brien, though, John Mulaney and Tilda Swinton.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to know, what are your thoughts on? I kind of teased how I thought about Tilda Swinton. What are your thoughts on John Mulaney? I know you're not as big a fan of him as I am.
I'm not a big. I love him in Big Mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think he's tremendous. I think he's a brilliant voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
I am probably not the right person that will probably ever like John Mulaney because I am not a what's the word I'm looking for? Stand-up guy anymore. Stand-up doesn't do it for me anymore. So, we talked about this when Louis C.K. was big. I was the one person who was like, I don't like Louis C.K.
That's true.
Right? I've said that for years, and you always thought I was crazy that I didn't like Louis C.K.
I will admit, I was a huge Louis C.K. fan of his content, not of him as a person.
Right.
But no, John Mulaney, I'd say, has filled that void since, Louis C.K. Turned out to be what he was.
Right.
John Mulaney, for me, is just like his comedy specials. I can watch them over and over again. I always find something new that makes me laugh. Plus his other projects, the Sack Lunch Bunch thing he did on Netflix with the kids. If you don't like his stand-up, you should at least check that out. Like, that's a super clever project he made. And then also the Documentary Now episode he did about the musical thing. That was brilliant. And anytime he's on SNL, I believe he's actually going to be on SNL. Well, by the time this airs, it'll be the previous Saturday. He'll be hosting SNL again. He's always great on there. All that being said, and all that love and adulation I have for John Mulaney, I am going with Tilda Swinton. I can't not. I love it. I considered it myself. I just thought, but the more I think about it, I love it. 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 We'd make a way, or find a way to make it work.
We find a way to make it work. Okay, well then we're just going to move on because I don't hate John Mulaney. I don't. Right. I don't. I'm not a stand-up guy anymore.
I get it. It's just not your cup of tea. That's fine.
It's just not. All right. So next, Jay Leno.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel versus Jay Moore, right?
Versus Jay Moore.
I gotta stick with mine. I like Jay Moore. Like might be a strong word. I recognize Jay Moore as somebody who tries to be funny. I've never been a fan of his, I guess. I don't know. And I just think Kimmel would have more fun with it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go with you. I picked Jay Moore. Again, I didn't love my pick on him either, but I felt like I feel like he would make Leno look like a piece of shit. And I think he'd have fun with that, but I think Kimmel would have fun more. And Kimmel does have some acting chops.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely. I concede your Kimmel's better.
You have to, let's just step out here, to be a late night talk show, you have to have acting chops. You got to pretend like you're interested in all these celebrities, foo-foo stories. And maybe 1 out of 10 is actually worth sitting there and listening to. But for the sake of the show, you have to appear engaged and, work with that guest to make the show watchable and make people want to keep watching it. So, that's why I didn't hesitate and think, well, he doesn't have many screen, credits. Well, I don't care. It didn't really matter to me. His man show work was enough.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The man show work was enough. Absolutely. I mean, he totally did not get along with Ben Stein, and you had no idea.
Right. Okay, Jimmy Fallon. I had Josh Radnor. You had Justin Long, right?
Yep. And Radnor was on my short list as well.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't love my pick, so I kind of picked. I went more on looks on that one, and just kind of that. Fallon's cute, funny, but I don't think he's very funny.
I like some stuff he does. I like his Saved by the Bell references.
Yes.
And I like when he works with Paul Rudd and does the music video things. Like,
yes,
there are things I like, but it's not appointment television for me by any stretch. And a lot of it is just, like I said, very broad.
It's very broad. And I find myself, instead of watching The Tonight Show, I watched the funny, the one skit that was hilarious.
Yes, that they post later on YouTube. Yeah.
Yep. I don't like his interviewing style.
So we're going with Josh Radnor there.
We're going with Josh Radnor.
It's not like a huge win for me. I didn't love it either. I just, again, whatever. I'll take it, but it's like,
yeah.
David Letterman, Christian Bale versus, remind me again.
Johnny Lee Miller. I think less makeup work would have to be done with Johnny Lee Miller. Christian Bale.
Definitely.
I think Christian Bale, although he could do everything, I don't know if he could do the quirkiness that is David Letterman. But David Letterman at this point was older, wasn't doing the crazy stuff he was doing back in the day.
The Uma and Oprah thing?
Yeah.
Oprah.
I could see. I'm going to go with Bale. I'm going to give it to you. I'm just going to give it to you.
All right. Andy Richter, James Corden.
Yep.
and you had
Sean Astin.
Sean Astin. I'll go with Sean Astin. Easy. I didn't love my pick there. I probably only came to mind because it was talk show related. I even Googled actors that looked like Andy Richter. That's how lost I was on this. I couldn't find anything. And then I don't know how I just ended up on James Corden, probably like proximity to Jimmy Kimmel.
Can I say that I feel that James Corden should not be acting and should just stick to his show?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. I'm not even like a fan of his. Like I couldn't find a better Andy Richter, but you did. I think Sean Astin, you can't not like Sean Astin, you know.
Yeah.
He was a great Bob on Stranger Things.
He was a great Bob on Stranger Things. What sucks is I hear he's a shitty person. But
is he really?
That's what I heard. He's shitty. I heard he's shitty.
No,
I don't know if it's true or not. It might be someone bitter, you know. But
I hope so, because he doesn't seem that way. He's Rudy. I know he's Rudy to be a bad guy.
No, you don't want Rudy. You don't want Mikey to be a bad guy.
No.
Yeah. No. That's in my research on Sean Astin. I found some not so pleasant things about him, supposedly from fans. So I don't know.
You know people that you've only seen on TV or movie screens,
right?
All right. Well, the Late Wars Part 2, I think, is officially wrapped. It was fun. It's always a challenge when they're known characters, that are the big personality types that literally everybody listening to this, that's the one thing with the Montreal Screwjob is that I'd say not everybody knew who these people were that we were talking about. Enough did, but not everybody. I think this is a case where everybody knows. So you got to pay this extra attention to looks as well as talent. It's tough. It's a tough. I had a tough time myself. How about you?
I did, honestly. I did have a tough time with this one. Once I knew who I wanted to direct it. The director was easy. Mm-hmm. Then came the hard part.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's go to our last ad here, and then we will come back and put a nice big fat ass bow on this bitch. Sound good?
Sounds like a fantastic idea. I like bows on bitches. Go to the ad.
Right, we'll be back in a sec.
Now that same conflict occurred, and if it only served to bring me back that old familiar pain, do I deserve the blame?
Hey, Macho Van Horton.
Ooh, yeah.
Spring is right around the corner.
Too hot to handle, too cold to hold.
What if I were to tell you that Swole Bodies Gym in Santa Monica is bringing back their Spring Shred Sessions package to help folks get a start on their summer beach bods?
You will eat my rear rockets and like it.
That's right, folks. For only $5,002, a personal trainer will work with you day and night for 60 days and help you conquer that unsightly winter flab.
I'm the tower of power, too sweet to sour.
Go to swolebodies.netcom today and sign up before it's too late. That's Swole Bodies Gym in Santa Monica, where gains get got.
10,000 years Intercontinental Champion. Ooh, yeah!
To keep them moving in motion, with a pulse and the strain, find new love in a hopeless mind. Who will it change?
Welcome back to Cast That Movie, and we are coming up to the end here, Tom. 3 episodes in, we have done it 3 times.
3. Make a 3-time champion. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. God.
Yeah.
This was a good one, I thought. I thought the Dune talk was lively and very, very entertaining.
It was. And, I felt bad when we were doing this originally because I'm like, God, I'm making him sit through this movie. But I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed the Dune talk.
Yeah, I did too. And I think it's the only thing that could have made sitting through that movie worth it, to be quite honest with you. So I'm not upset that you made me do that because I think it made for a good episode. And I'm willing to pay the price, 2 hours of my life, watching a David Lynch film about outer space people on giant graboids saying pew, 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 and firing things I will do that for a good bit, and I think it was a good bit.
Yeah, I think it was a great bit, and now you know where they got the graboids from.
Yeah, that was a nice little nugget to learn. All right, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up because I think we've run long, but we are gonna quickly tease. I think next episode, we are looking at doing something going back to the 80s, and this might give you a little bit of a hint. Oh, hey, hey, hey. Hey!
Boom, 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 dun. Dun, dun.
That's right, folks. We are going to cast the Brat Pack movie. We're talking Rob Lowe. We're talking Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy. I don't know. We'll pick like 5 or 6 of the Brat Pack, and we are going to pick modern actors to play them. This is a contemporary project. And we will also be recasting another failed venture from the past as yet to be determined. If you have any ideas, certainly chime in on our Facebook page. And if it's something that strikes our fancy, we shall entertain it.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, you can find us on SoundCloud, Cast That Movie. You can find us on YouTube, Cast That Movie. We have a Facebook page, Cast That Movie. And you can find us on the joedown.blog, as we said earlier. So do us a favor, go at least to the Facebook page, like and subscribe. Please, guys, please, please, please. It means the world to us, and it doesn't take anything more than 30 seconds of your time.
Right. All right. Well, I think with that, we are going to put an end to this, but we are going to be back for an episode 4, and it's going to be a blast. So I hope everybody out there will join us. And Tom, I'm going to let you have the last word.
Word.
All right.
Later, everybody.
Have a good one, y'all. All right. Bye.
Bye.